Drum roll, chat. It is time. Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another Chuck Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We are on Old Dragon's Tale, the final part. I don't see this going in for another one. Based on the page count, I don't see it going for another part, but we'll see as always. I have been told about the tail part, which is technically is the story from, Odyssey's story. Maybe potentially has some cool stuff in there to connect with this, but I think it's going to be based on how this concludes. If I'm like, oh yeah, now I see what they're talking about. Let me go reread that. But I don't know. We'll see as always. But chat, thanks for dropping by. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for everybody that drops by for the premiere. Thanks for your support, all that stuff, your kind words. You guys mean a lot to me. It's because you guys that we've gotten through this whole journey. And we're down to literally I think 2 more stories and some side stuff, but they were pretty much done. It's getting scary at this point, especially with the end of ODT, because I know a lot of people were excited for this. And so now this one's gone. I think most people have probably seen what they want to see for this entire journey, but we'll see as always, and then we'll move on to something else like Bookworm and whatnot. I'm excited to get into, but yes, thanks for dropping by. All your guys' support means a great deal to me. And yes, as per usual, I greatly appreciate it. Support channel monetary, the Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. Several last week with a super. Thank you, and happy birthday, late happy birthday wish there. Noah, 36 months and a super. Thank you for the long time support, Noah. That means a great deal to me. Soundway with a super and Rose Moist with a super. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. But with all that said, let's jump right into it. Chapter 22, The End of the Dragon World. It's time for the last one to collapse before it all just becomes the human world. Why? I wondered. I thought it was absurd, because until this very moment, we had believed the human god was our ally. No, perhaps I should say, even then, even at this stage. Human god, why? I muttered those words. I think my mind was in a turmoil of emotions. Certainly, Lord Dragon God had intended to invade the human world. From the perspective of the human god, he may have been an enemy. And yet. I mean, I see that, actually. I see that, even for, Laplace's perspective right now, where the humans are supposed to be our ally, you could even forgive the human god being here to deal this final blow right now. Because, again, Lord Dragon God's gonna invade him. And we're trying to stop him from invading. It makes sense for the other side to come in and take advantage of the situation because they're going to be a threat eventually. If Lord Dragon God wins right here, he will come after the human god. He had always been our ally. He had given us advice, lent us aid. He had helped us avenge Lady Lunaria. The human god, until now, had always acted with all the worlds in mind. Then, the human god turned his gaze towards me. With that nasty... Never mind. Never mind. This is where it suddenly solidifies. With that nasty, detestable, mocking grin on his face. Well, you see. I'm sure at first he intended to say something plausible. Something that would sound reasonable, respectable, something befitting the god of the human world. But he couldn't hold it in. The situation must have been far too amusing for him. Oh my gosh, a dirtbag from the beginning. Everything had gone too perfectly. He couldn't help but mock us. He exploded in laughter, a laugh that clung to my ears and wouldn't fade. Oh, no, everyone, you really did a great job. Thanks to you all, I was able to accomplish my goal. The human god spoke to us, who stood there in stunned silence. That was the first time I heard him like that, and I haven't heard from him since. But judging from the words and actions of all those who were deceived and led to ruin afterward, I understood it well now. Whenever he finds himself in a situation like this, he likes to run his mouth endlessly. Then, as he pats you on the shoulder, he always says, "Well done." Thank you. What are you talking about? Like an idiot, I asked that question. If I had thought about it just for a moment, I would have realized that the Lord Dragon God's words were true. What am I talking about? Isn't it obvious? I set the gods against each other and destroyed their worlds. Yes, he was the mastermind. Again, this implies from the very beginning. This was all the intent, which again goes back to kind of an unfortunate thing. I was kind of hoping there would be something there like the man god was betrayed here and thus he destroyed everything. But no, this implies even Lady Lunaria was his goal. He did that on purpose. He didn't care about Lady Lunaria. Yes, he was the mastermind. Everything was his doing. The growing animosity between the gods, the murder of Lady Lunaria, and the important people of each world. All of it was orchestrated by him. Perhaps even the appearance of monsters and the phenomenon of teleportation. Perhaps those two were his work. No, that might have been coincidence, but there was no doubt that he used them to his advantage.
I mean, I've been planting those seeds, little by little, for ages, but the dragon god was annoyingly cautious.
Again, Lord Dragon God knew. He was annoyingly cautious. I was planting these seeds, and he kept jumping in there. He was super cautious.
Still, I never imagined things would go this smoothly. Especially you, Slard. You really outdid yourself. You never once doubted me. You acted exactly as I wanted.
Slard's eyes widened. His body trembled violently.
If not for your efforts, the Dragon World and the other worlds wouldn't have been driven to destroy each other. I just need to say 4 magic words. For Lord Dragon God.
Damn, dude. Oh. He went to Slard and said, for Lord Dragon God, go against this. That's all I need to hear. He's so simple. He's so simple to manipulate. I can just say, do it for your Lord Dragon God, and he'll go, oh, that's right, I should do it for him.
And you quickly and conveniently believe every word. But to think, that you, with your unwavering loyalty, that you, loyal guard dogs, would go so far as to turn your fangs against the Dragon God himself.
Preposterous. Then you said when you asked us for help to stop Lord Dragon God.
Oh,
The human god laughed.
My performance was quite something, wasn't it? Honestly, I only expected that you would ensure Lord Dragon God was the sole attacker on the human world, but...
He looked at Slard and laughed, as if finding him endlessly amusing.
Thanks to you, the Lord Dragon God left himself completely open. The Dragon God, the most troublesome god of all, and I was able to kill him without even a single scratch. You went so far as to prepare yourself an elaborate scheme to defy your master. How utterly stupid. What is wrong with you people?
It is literally like the big question mark at the end there. He's just amused by how stupid they just fell into this.
I merely fanned the flames a little, and you went this far. And to think you were all yapping about loyalty. You make me laugh so much, you're killing me. Oh, I do feel sorry for the Dragon God. Poor thing. I never seen more devoted idiots than you all.
Come to think of it, Slard's actions had been strange as well. I had never found them unnatural, but he had been the one to propose the war in the first place. He had been the one to say we should stop Lord Dragon God. Long ago, he even killed the Demon King without Lord Dragon God's orders. That's what I was saying back there. And it's finally kind of putting it together here, this idea that all these little moments where I'm like, no, Slard's sus. No, Slard's sus. This is why. The entire time, the man god, it seems like specifically him, has been manipulated this entire time. Why would he propose the idea of stopping Lord Dragon God? Why would he kill off this demon before the Dragon God talks to him? All for Lord Dragon God. Slard, the most cunning and clever of the 5 dragon generals, he had been deceived. He had danced to the tune of the human god's words, orchestrating a war between worlds, leading the Lord Dragon God to his death. When the truth was thrust upon him, Slard cried out,
Lord Dragon God!
With his remaining arm, he severed both his legs. He ripped out the half-broken fangs that remained and gouged out his own eyes. Lastly, he thrust his fist into his own chest, grasping his heart.
Forgive me.
And then he raised his heart high, crushing it in his grasp. With a wet, bursting sound, his heart ruptured, and Slard's arm fell limply to the ground. Falling after Crystal, Slard died, the second dragon to perish. I mean, this checks. Again, if they would die rather than betray him, in effect, you betray him, you die. Personally, I'm against this. I think his better option is to do whatever you can to undo what you did wrong. And right here, there's an opportunity to do that, because your Lord Dragon God literally impaled right now. A dragon general with ephemeral eyes and silver green scales. A man who earned the title of Holy Dragon Emperor through his military achievements in the war against the demons. True to his own words, he took his own life with his own hands. It was his final act of loyalty, deceived by the enemy, leading Lord Dragon God to his death. This was the only way for him to prove his devotion. This was all he could do. Which makes me wonder how he knows, when he's brought back, how he knows what he's supposed to be doing. This was all he could do.
Oh dear, to be so disgusted by your own stupidity that you commit suicide. How truly pathetic and stupid.
The human god laughed at his loyalty. Even now, the memory makes me grit my teeth hard enough to shatter them. That wretched god laughed. at Solard's devotion to Lord Dragon God, at the pride of the 5 dragon generals. But we had no words to respond with, because we were, in fact, stupid, pathetic, and miserable. We had been deceived by the human god, blindly followed Solard's words without questions, and led Lord Dragon God to his death. The weight of this truth was overwhelming. Yeah, I kind of wonder if Solard was in tune with the situation before they even went to that meeting. Saying what Laplace heard was deception, that he came in there with some pre-knowledge from the human god and chose to oppose him at that point. Because it doesn't imply there was a gap there. Just they had the meeting, Lord Dragon God said he was going to do this, and then he said, what did he tell you? You were deceived. But again, it implies that Solard and the human god were very much connected, and so he wanted to trust him. The weight of the truth was overwhelming, too overwhelming. It was so heavy that, despite my frustration, I couldn't find a single word to refute it.
Don't laugh.
The one who silenced the laughter of the human god was none of the dragon generals.
Solar was a loyal servant. I will not allow you to laugh at him.
Oh my, you're still alive. Geckos really are resilient, aren't they?
Fucking Chad right here. He just got betrayed by all of his men. But again, they're his children. Betrayed by all of his men. Brought to this point where he's literally impaled and dying.
Don't with my children.
It was Lord Dragon God. Even after having his god gem gouged out, Lord Dragon God was still alive.
And yet, you say you won't allow it? Do you really think you could still give me orders in this situation?
Solar's judgment was not wrong. Had I been in his place, I would have done the same. This is all my own fault. If you must laugh at someone, laugh at me.
What are you even saying? I've been laughing at you all along.
Lord Dragon God's killing intent surged. Even on the verge of death, Lord Dragon God exuded an overwhelming presence. It was his fury that gave him such power. Feeling that killing intent, cold sweat formed on the human god's head. He's literally impaled. His god gem's out there, and he's still, like, making him sweat.
Ooh, what am I gonna do?
Human god. No. Whatever you are, wearing the guise of the human god, answer my questions.
Again, this could just be specifically like, you're no longer who I remembered. You've gone down this path and you're somebody else. Not literally, you're somebody taking the appearance of him and you've replaced him.
You're in no position.
Who are you? Why did you want war? What do you intend to do by killing the gods? And why did you kill Lenaria?
Those were no mere questions. It was a command. Had we, the 5 dragon generals, been in his place, we would have stood at attention and spilled our foolish thoughts in response. Again, who are you? Why did you kill Lenaria? He's asking him like this is not him. Again, this is the scariest part. This is the part that I was kind of curious about. Is this not the original human god? Is the man god not the original human god? The human god did not answer. He did not obey the command. Instead, he crushed Lord Dragon God's gem in his grasp. With a brittle crack, the god gem shattered.
Gah!
The next moment, Lord Dragon God coughed up a massive amount of blood. That god gem was the same Lord Dragon God had attained every time he defeated a god. A gem that held the power to traverse worlds, the very source of a god's power.
How long do you think you can keep acting like you're above me? Enough of this. You lost to me.
The human god howled, stomping on Lord Dragon God, who had fallen to the ground. He stomped on him again and again.
Why did I kill Lenaria? Why did I want war? The answer is obvious. To kill you. You, who possess the great power, yet refuse to fight more than anyone else. You, who are more cautious than anyone, never letting down your guard. Ha! Just as I planned. Look at you now.
Lord Dragon God's body no longer had any strength left. Yet, his presence did not fade. His killing intent, his oppressive aura, only continued to grow.
Ugh, what the hell are you?
The human god faltered under that murderous intent. Even as he lay there dying, Lord Dragon God continued to intimidate him. He poured all of his anger, all of his murderous intent into that glare. The one that he loved the most had been murdered. He'd been forced to fight against the gods he once walked alongside, and even had his own subordinates turn their fangs against him. All that rage.
Ha! Glaring at me won't change anything. You're going to die here. I'm going to be the one and only god.
The human god sneered as he stepped back. Then he floated into the sky. He raised his palm upward. A tremendous sphere of light began to form. Its density was overwhelming.
Perish, dragon world.
There was no time to stop it. No, even if there had been, there was no stopping it. The human god unleashed a spear from his hand. It shot up high, drawn towards the land of the dragon world, as if it was being sucked in. And then, explosions, light, a shockwave that consumed the world. By the time the light had faded, the world had begun to collapse. The earth cracked and crumbled, while darkness surged up from the sky. It was a sight that I had seen many times before, though it was slightly different from before. The sight of a world being destroyed. It is so funny with how this whole thing ends. It gives me the impression of simply like he was jealous and afraid of the dragon god. I mean, he says like, I hate the fact that you're so capable and you're so strong and yet you don't want to fight. Like, why don't you want to fight? But like, just like, especially with how this ends, like he's an absolute coward right here. He had to trick everybody to turn on the dragon god just to take him down. And even in the end, he's still afraid of him. Like he's still like this little bastard coming up there going like, hee, I got you. Oh, don't scare me. Like even when he's dying, he's still afraid of him. Again, it checks to the human god or the man god and how like absolutely nasty he is and a coward little bastard he is, hiding in the barren lands, manipulating everything from a distance and laughing at everybody's misfortune. But like there's still a side of it like, again, I question why. Is it really that simple? Is it more of a fact of, again, manipulation, that he just loves messing with people and he's like, this is his first time. This is where he gets his first taste of this crap and he never lets up after this point. He just keeps doing it. But why do this? Because it's fun, and that because you didn't want to do anything, you refuse to fight more than anyone else, you're so powerful, you have the great power that you have, and you're not doing anything, and I got you. I beat you. It's almost like an aspect of like him being such a coward that he wanted to do this to prove that he's stronger. It's interesting. It's very interesting. But yeah, I love the dragon god, even to the end. He's just freaking Chad, scaring the shit out of him, even in the end.
Farewell, dragon god. You could die here miserably.
With that taunt, the human god slowly drifted away. All I could do was watch as the whole thing unfolded. If I were there now, I would have surely attacked the human god. I would never have forgiven such brutality, stomping upon Lord Dragon God. I would never have tolerated the insult of the dragon generals. But back then, none of us understood. Not me, not Chaos, not Maxwell. We didn't understand what had happened, what had truly occurred. Among the 5 dragon generals, the only one that grasped the full truth was the dead Soulard. All we knew was that something irreversible, something utterly horrifying had transpired. That much, at least, was clear.
Laplace.
The voice that brought me back to my senses was none other than the Lord Dragon God's. Lord Dragon God, I'm here. Forcing my trembling legs to move, I walked towards him. He was still alive. This dude like unstoppable. He like lost his god gem, impaled. The entire world's blowing up. He's like,
God damn it, over here. Get over here, Laplace. All right, let's go. Round 2.
Forcing my trembling legs to move forward, I walked towards him. He was still alive. His god gem had been destroyed. His body was covered in wounds. He had injuries inflicted by the other gods, and yet he still lived.
Chaos. Maxwell.
Lord Dragon God, we...
It is fine.
But if we only followed your commands, Lord Dragon God, please, forgive us. No, even if you do not forgive us, please, order us to die. Command us to hunt down the human gods and strike that evil god down.
I forgive you. All of this happened because my words were lacking.
Lord Dragon God forgave Chaos and Maxwell easily. He forgave us, who betrayed him.
I now grant you a mission.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the dragon world is collapsing. There's little time left. In that span, I will devise a way to kill the human god. You will use your lives to buy me that time.
By time? By time, he said. What exactly did it entail? I did not know yet. Right now, my mind can only think a little better than before. But even so, how could I possibly stop the destruction of the world? Yet, they did not hesitate for even a moment when given their final orders. Yes, Chaos and Maxwell took flight, while Lord Dragon God turned his head. That's... Hey, go out there and stop the world from collapsing. I gotta figure stuff out. Which, this is it right here. I was thinking it was possibly earlier. Because again, before the battle, it was implying that Lord Dragon God was sitting there thinking about something. And I thought potentially he already knew what was going to happen. Like, he's like, there's no way this is going to happen. Well, they're probably going to attack me. Human God could possibly jump in and attack at the very last minute. Even if I do stop them and I do go fight have the human god, I'm not going to have my dragon generals, and I'm probably going to lose to them. I have to put something to effect that's going to continue on the dragonfolk. And so no matter what is going to transpire after the fight with the dragon generals, he wanted to have set up a way for them to continue on. And I thought he was potentially thinking about, at that point, the resurrection spell. I'm kind of thinking this might be the case right here. Like, everything's falling apart, and he's like, okay, I've lost. Okay, give me some time so I can think of an incredible spell. And again, I think he's going to think of the resurrection spell here, the reincarnation spell right here. Some way to both transport them out and also allow them to live on. That potentially, they're all about to die. Like, this entire world's going to collapse on itself, but the spell will take them over there and reincarnate them. Chaos and Maxwell took flight, while Lord Dragon God turned his head.
Dola, where's Dola?
Lord Dragon God called out the name of Lady Dola, but Lady Dola was done for. Her body could no longer move.
Laplace.
Yes, I did not need to hear the rest. I moved to Lady Dola's side to witness her final moments.
Lady Dola. That voice. Laplace. What happened? I can't see anything anymore.
Lady Dola was on the verge of death. She barely had the strength left to think. Even so, she understood that something terrible had happened. With her fading consciousness, she desperately asked,
The human god.
I told her everything that I had seen, everything that had happened, that it was all the human god's scheme, that the war had been orchestrated by the human god's machinations, leading Solar to take responsibility by dying, that Lord Dragon God would soon die at the hands of the human god, that the dragon world was doomed, soon to be destroyed. Everything.
I see. Then I too must atone for my sins with my death. Not that it matters though, as I am already dying.
Lady Dola gazed vacantly into the air and spoke to me.
Laplace, I have a favor to ask. Please, command me as you will. It's not an order, but a request. I knew I'd be judged as a traitor, so I let my son, Pegasus, escape. Please.
You let him escape? Where to?
To the future. The means are in the teleportation research facility. Please, let Lord Dragon God too.
I didn't understand what Lady Dola meant, but I would soon find out. For now, I set it aside. Okay, this is implying that this is the ability. So I thought they said the Lord Dragon God made that. I must be misremembering, because this is implying that he just sending him to the future. Sending him to the future through teleportation? What? That doesn't make any sense. Like that they developed time travel? Not just travel, not just teleportation, not just summoning, but time travel? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
So, in the end, just as I thought, Lord Dragon God's words were correct. We were wrong, weren't we? That alone is relief. To know that fighting Lord Dragon God was a mistake is truly a relief.
Yeah, I think that's a sad reality, that they were struggling with this so much. They were struggling with the fact that they were going against his orders, that they thought that he was wrong, that he was doing something wrong. And again, I believe that a lot of this he was doing wrong because he was being manipulated by the human god. It's just this last part, the part they finally question, was the part they're wrong. Those were Lady Dola's final words. She must have always wondered that. Was it right to stop Lord Dragon God, even if it meant fighting? And now, after hearing everything, she had her answer. Then, she died. The third dragon to perish. After Solar, she passed away, thinking not of herself, nor even of her son's fate, but of her loyalty to Lord Dragon God above all else. Again, that's what they imply at the very beginning. This was the one that was the most faithful. Even though everybody was faithful to Lord Dragon God, they still seen her as like a bit much. Like everybody's faithful to him, but she's a bit much. Again, the idea of her like never shutting up about it. To the very end, she remained loyal. Apparently not. After witnessing Lady Dola's passing, I returned to Lord Dragon God, and I conveyed her final words. After a brief moment of thought, Lord Dragon God spoke.
Laplace, take my body to the teleportation research facility.
Yes.
I lifted Lord Dragon God's body with one hand and took off. Naturally, in my other hand, I carried the young master. For several minutes, I flew, dodging the mountains that rained down from above. Eventually, I arrived at a certain place, a secret location I had been brought to once before, the teleportation research facility.
This is Lord Dragon God? How tragic!
The elderly researchers were still there. Having long accepted their impending deaths, they showed no distress over the world's collapse. But upon seeing the wounded Lord Dragon God, they all voiced their concern, asking what had happened and whether he was all right. Lord Dragon God did not respond. He simply stated, "The time has come." With solemn expressions, the elderly researchers stepped aside, allowing us to proceed to the innermost chamber. Okay, so this is implying that Lord Dragon God was involved with the creation of this thing. That potentially Dola kind of took Pegasus and kind of went ahead of the line here, sent him to the future, whatever. Inside, there was an altar of a stone monument, the boundary of the world. An altar similar to the gates to the other worlds. The stone monument was inscribed with intricate layers of magic circles, and atop the altar laid 3 god gems. Yeah, this is my assumption as well, that they had the other gems, which I'm surprised that the human god didn't come after these. He probably wanted all these gems because he knows that he could just go get the gems and get his men out of there. Like, he can use this potentially. He could potentially use it to replace the other one, save his life. This is a goof up for the human god not to have thought this far.
Laplace, place my son here.
I followed his words and laid the young master upon the altar. Lord Dragon God staggered away from me and leaned against the altar. As I wondered what he intended to do, he began inscribing a magic circle around the young master. It was a spell far too advanced for my past self to understand, but I could at least tell he was reproducing the inscriptions on the stone monument. Lord Dragon God only needed a few seconds to comprehend it all.
The collapse of the dragon world cannot be stopped. I, too, will die. We have lost.
Lord Dragon God spoke in a matter-of-fact tone, confirming reality.
Even so, he must be slain.
The human god had murdered Lady Lunaria. He had manipulated us, making us dance in the palm of his hand, bringing ruin to the other worlds. He had pitted the 5 dragon generals against Lord Dragon God, leading us all to destruction. I could never forgive him.
That being is not the real human god. The true human god was never that kind of a man. Man god, yes. Let's call this being man god. I do not know why he mimics the human god, nor where the real one has gone. But what is certain is that he has malicious intent to destroy us, and that he holds the power of a god.
Again, right here, it's getting into it once again. He doesn't believe that's the human god. Again, at some point, he did an aha moment of like, oh, so it was him. And again, he knew that something was off. He knew something was off the entire time. It was just the moment all this happened and he realized he's at fault for Lunaria. I think that was the click for him to realize this isn't the same person. The man god has replaced the human god. A man god has replaced the human god. That makes me wonder, is this just what the dragon god believes and it's not really true? And again, it's just not really a physical replacement. It's just something happened with my bro and he's not acting like he used to. Something up there got rewired. No, right here he's saying physically he's been replaced. Somebody came in here and replaced the human god. And he has the power of a god. It makes me believe that somebody summoned somebody from another world, a god, and that god replaced the human god. That's where my mind goes. And that he's just mimicking his look. Which concerns me that this is like the final chapters because like we're going to get an answer to that question mark?
To defeat him, we will need the power of a god too.
Lord Dragon God looked straight at me.
After this, I will cross over to the human world and challenge him to a final battle.
Your body, you cannot fight in that state.
I know. My death is inevitable. I stand no chance of victory, but I can at least strike a final blow.
Saying this, Lord Dragon God took one of the god gems and pressed it into his chest. Blood dripped down, and his body began to glow. His dying body regained a faint trace of strength.
However, that one strike must pave the way to victory. Thus,
Lord Dragon God said this, took one of the god gems, and placed it beside the young master. So this makes me believe that his last fight with the man god is what's going to basically cripple him. What may potentially seal away his power and make him weak enough that he has to hide away in the barren lands. Lord Dragon God said this, then took one of the god gems and placed it beside the young master, right in a small, slightly rounded concave slot.
I will reincarnate my son.
The young master carried the blood of Lord Dragon God and the blood of the human god. He was a demigod with a very strong bloodline, one who possessed the power of a god.
I will bestow upon my son all of my abilities, and will put measures into place to ensure he remains concealed until he gains power necessary to defeat the man god.
So there it is right there. They're going to make him concealed. So whatever causes Orsted to be able to hide away is what he puts into effect here.
But even so, there is little chance of victory. I do not know why he takes the appearance of a human god, or why he possesses the power of a god. If we do not unravel that mystery, defeat is inevitable.
Huh. Unless they're going to get into something here in a bit, I'm wondering if this is implying what will be in the future. That whenever, Refugio makes the sequel for Mushoku Tensei, that story that will again get into the point leading up to potentially the defeat of the man god, will this be answered? Because right here he's saying there's no chance of victory. There's little chance of victory. I don't know why he has the appearance of the human god or why he possessed the power of a god, but if we don't unravel that, if we don't figure this answer out that was hoping would be in here, if we don't unravel that mystery, we can't defeat him. That's implying that whenever we do get to the point where, Orsted and everybody and Rudius' children do go up there to the man god, they're going to have that answer. potentially have that answer because it will lead to taking him down. Again, I do believe that there is a element of him having to remain there. I still believe that's true. The man god, because he's now in this position, probably has to stay there to keep these worlds from unraveling. There's a side of me that almost believes it might be the creator god. That would be an interesting twist. That the current human god, man god, is the creator god coming back into effect and taking position here and just being, he's warped. He's just absolutely warped. Because he was tired, and then he created the worlds, and then he created the gods, and then he disappeared. Maybe potentially this whole process made him skewed. Or he created all this stuff for amusement. And everything the creator god made was out of amusement. Then Lord Dragon God looked at me, took the last god gem in his hand, and extended it towards me.
I have a task for you.
Yes, I accepted it and gave him my deepest bow. Looking back, it was a bow that I had learned for Lord Dragon God's sake, and it had become the last one I ever gave him.
I will send my son tens of thousands of years into the future. During that time, you must uncover the man god's true identity, where he came from, his weaknesses, find a way to defeat him, and give that information to my son.
Understood. Which sucks because he never does. Which that all tells me that, yeah, the man god knew, and he was trying to stop him from meeting him. That makes me wonder if Laplace figured it out and was going to tell Orsted, and the man god had him broken. Which is interesting because it gives the impression with the mainline series that it was all Laplace developing techniques, like fighting techniques, to give to Orsted. And he was developing all this stuff, and then Orsted would appear, and then he would give him all the abilities, and that Orsted would take those abilities to fight. It was information. It wasn't techniques, it was information. You had to find out where he's from and what kills him. That's interesting. As Lord Dragon God issues these commands to me, he continued to imbue the young master with countless enhancements. It was a complex, intricate spell. Even now, I did not fully understand what kinds of magic was applied, but I knew one thing. It was a power meant to oppose the human god. After all, the man god possessed the same powers as the human god. As the sounds of destruction echoed from outside, I silently waited for the process to be completed. I watched as Lord Dragon God methodically drew and embedded magic circles onto the young master's body. Lord Dragon God must have foreseen this outcome, that things would end this way, perhaps ever since we, the 5 dragon generals, defected. Thinking back, he could have ignored our opposition and gone to the human world regardless. But Lord Dragon God must have judged that doing so would not lead to victory. Again, that was the answer to the question I had last time. Like, you could just leave. And again, him fighting in the dragon world puts everybody there at danger. Because again, the defeat of these gods is like the destruction of the world. Why would he do it? He knew he was going to lose. If the 5 dragon generals turned against him and joined the enemy, he would not be able to avoid the traps that were probably laid out in the human world and reach the man god. That was why he sought another path to victory. Even as the dragon generals prepared countermeasures against Lord Dragon God, he never stopped thinking. So there's that. Yeah, that when he was sitting there during that entire time, that was what it was.
One last thing. Is there anything else you would like to ask?
Having completed the final magic circle, Lord Dragon God asked me that. I slowly began to shake my head, then stopped and looked up. There was one thing I had to ask. The name. Yeah, this is a sucky thing for Laplace. It's like, what? Again, right here, Laplace has no idea what's going on. Like, he's trying to figure a thing out. He's trying to wrap his head around the situation. Again, most of his life kind of lived just doing whatever Lord Dragon God wanted. Whatever would serve Lord Dragon God. Whatever he needs to do. And now the situation happens where literally, like, everything that he thought was real just got flipped. His world right here just completely got flipped. Physically and metaphorically got flipped. He doesn't know what to think here. The name.
The name.
The young master's name. This was the end. If so, I had to ask. This was something I could not decide on my own. It was also Lady Lunaria's wish that Lord Dragon God be the one to name him. Lord Dragon God pondered briefly, but he must have already decided. He spoke softly.
The child's name is Orsted.
The goat! The goat! The naming of the goat. Orsted, the best character in the entire series. I think, like, lore-wise and story-wise and character progression-wise, I think Orsted is definitely up there as, like, number one. Even if Roxy's best girl and everything. The birth of the goat. Thus, the young master, Lord Orsted, was sent to the future. Lord Dragon God and I escaped from the collapsing research facility and headed towards the human world. Lord Dragon God left me behind and went on ahead. Before parting, I wished him a good fortune. To which he replied,
My luck and my life have already run out.
Those were the last words I had ever heard from him. I leapt on the salyak, dodged the falling boulders as I flew towards the altar. While in flight, I sensed something vanishing behind me. Chaos and Maxwell, the two who literally staked their lives to halt the collapse, had died. Chaos, the fourth dragon to perish. Maxwell, the last dragon to perish. Perhaps the order was reversed, but that was how I remembered it. Thanks to their sacrifice, I barely managed to escape from the collapsing dragon world. By the time I arrived in the human world, the battle had begun. The clash between gods had brought forth cataclysms, tornadoes, torrential rains, tsunamis, earthquakes, thunder, and the overwhelming fear and hatred that spread throughout the world. The pressure from the gods had caused all living beings to fear the dragonfolk. But more than that, I was shocked. The human world had changed drastically. It had been so long since I was last there that I could not remember when it was. The human world should have been nothing but an endless plains and rivers. And yet there was mountains, forests, oceans, wilderness, and deserts. A world that seemed to condense 6 different worlds into one. Most likely, the collapse of the other worlds had caused the mana to flow into this one, reshaping the human world. Okay, whoa. It's like I want to keep reading on, but it's like, wait, hold on a second. Stop for a second here. The first part here I'm kind of curious about, because it says the pressure from the gods had caused all living beings to fear the dragonfolk. The pressure from the gods caused this, specifically dragonfolk. That's an oddity there, because yes, Orsted is feared. Orsted has the curse upon himself that everybody fears him. They're terrified of him. Technically, Laplace as well has that fear upon him as well. But we never really get that sense from anybody else. It never talks about that with, like, the story of Otis. It's not like they goes to the sages and they're like, oh, and he's afraid of them, but he needs information from them. He needs the power from the sages. He's never afraid of the dragonfolk in that situation. But it keeps bringing up this idea, and I think they talked about it it was earlier chapters. They talked about the idea of the fear of the dragonfolk, or the hatred of the dragonfolk. But I never recalled that. I never really called this kind of idea to the other beings, despite that all this was caused by the dragon god. Why don't they hate the dragonfolk? This again is kind of giving that indication, but it makes sense because the current time right now, everybody in this world don't like the dragonfolk because they're all there because of them. It's very fresh in the mind. Cut forward to mainline series, way up ahead, nobody remembers any of this. They don't remember the dragonfolk. But yeah, this is interesting. And again, this could sort of tie in with why the man god is doing this. Specifically, the man god is doing this. It's implying here that because of the removal of the other worlds, this one's being bolstered up. This one's getting buffed. Like, all this attributes from elsewhere is now coming into this world. And this could imply why the man god is doing this. And I kind of had this theory that potentially they've foreseen that the existence of all these worlds being there is causing instability. Despite the fact that the creator god created all these worlds to support each other. Like, they're so messed up, they need to all kind of be there to create sort of an ebb and flow, a borrowing of mana, a flow of mana from one to the other to create a balance. But seemingly, the man god seen something wrong with that system and wanted to destroy the other worlds to bring something to his. And that might be potentially it. He wanted to destroy the other worlds to take from them. To take that mana, to take that power, to take the structure from the other worlds. And interestingly enough, it changed it from a world of nothing but plains to a world with so many other elements to it. Lush forests, mountain ranges, all that kind of stuff. The collapse of the other worlds reshaped the human world, built it anew. From my perspective, it was an imbalance, but looking back now, I can see the world had formed a new equilibrium. Again, he's seeing that there was a change here that potentially was a positive. Again, it answers why they would want this to happen. And that sort of feeds into that weird theory that I had, the idea of this potentially being the original creator god. That, like, again, they seen that, oh, yeah, if I destroy the other worlds now, an equilibrium will be created. That it's fine now. I don't need the other worlds to exist, and they're only causing problems between each other. This will create a balance if I destroy the other ones. I land atop the mountains, the highest mountain in the world. From here, I watched the battle unfold. I did not know where Lord Dragon God and the Man God were fighting, but I prayed for Lord Dragon God's victory. Even if the chances were 1 in 10,000, I couldn't help but hope. Eventually, the battle ended. The thunder and tornadoes subsided, and roaring echoes faded. only the rain continued to fall silently. For 7 days and 7 nights. On the 8th day, the sky was a clear, brilliant blue. You're doing like some biblical stuff out of nowhere. Refugio, come on. There was no wind, and sea lay still. No trace of any god's mighty presence remained, neither Lord Dragon God nor the man god. And I understood. Lord Dragon God was gone, and thus the dragon world was destroyed. They're going to leave it there like that? That's where it's going to leave it? I mean, this is the assumption here. That Lord Dragon God went there and crippled the man god. Like, just dealt a really good blow on him so that he has to hide in the Barren Lands. He doesn't have power anymore. He weakened him, like, significantly. Potentially, probably broke his god gem. He probably managed to destroy the man god's god gem, if he had it. And that's probably why he's stuck in the Barren Lands. But yeah, it sucks that they're not going to really have him actually see it. He doesn't even know what had happened in the end. Chapter 23. And so, towards a new story. And this is where the story ends. With those words, Laplace let out a sigh. The tension in his shoulders eased, and the clenched teeth loosened. However, his face remained pale, and still bore traces of sharp intensity. The anger, the resentment, and the helplessness had not faded. Just recalling those times must have been painful for him. And what happened after that? Rosalina asked hesitantly. After that? After you descended to the human world. What about the others from the dragon world? What happened, master? Oh dear, Rosalina. You mustn't ask so many questions at once. Laplace gave a weak smile, but answered nonetheless. Most of the dragon folk perished. Though, of course, some managed to escape the dragon world and ascended to the human world. The dragon world's collapse was far swifter than the other worlds, so only a very small number made it. Hearing this, Rosalina felt a slight relief, but she quickly realized that there was something more to it. Then, why is it that there's hardly any dragon folk left now? They were slaughtered. But why? You understand, don't you? Even if the mastermind is the man god. We destroyed too much. Hatred, fury, and fear towards the dragonfolk have been deeply ingrained in the other races. So, what would happen when the surviving dragonfolk came to the human world? The very thing the 5 dragon generals had feared had happened. Well, there's also the fact that the number of survivors were simply too small. Yeah, I can see that. And again, this could lead to the idea that there's no fear of the dragonfolk anymore because they've all been destroyed. At this later point, they've all been killed. Like this is a race that has been eradicated at this point. Lord Laplace, did you not help those people? No, I didn't help them. Why not? Because I had something I needed to do. Laplace carried a critical mission on his shoulders. Just before his death, Lord Dragon God had entrusted him with a great purpose. It was not to aid the dragonfolk, whose numbers had fallen below what was necessary for the survival of the species. That makes sense too, because again, they mentioned it before that it takes so long before they actually breed. And again, technically it takes so long for them to actually have children. So again, to have their race, their population drop so much, it's inevitable that they're going to go extinct. After the battle between Lord Dragon God and the Man God, I searched for the Man God, but I couldn't find him. It's likely that even in a battle that he was destined to lose, Lord Dragon God managed to land a decisive blow, either gravely injuring or sealing him away. Did you ever consider that they might have ended up killing each other? There was a time that I thought so. But before long, the human god started interfering with me indirectly. That was proof that he's still alive. Yeah, he's seeing the manipulation happening. He's seeing that people are being puppeteered by him. But I wonder if at this point, does he know the man god's in the Barren Lands? I wonder if he knows at this point. As the last surviving member of the 5 dragon generals, Laplace began his work in the human world. He sought out the vanished man god's whereabouts and true nature, searching for weaknesses and ways to kill him, so he could pass that knowledge on Lord Dragon God's successor, Orsted, who would arrive in the future. What exactly is the man god? What was his goal in doing such terrible things? Unfortunately, I have not uncovered his true nature. As for his goal, I can only make some guesses, but most of it's still a mystery. Though, I do have one hypothesis. What is it? Are we get some juicy deets? Rosalina instinctively asked, and Laplace responded. When I first arrived in the human world, I was shocked by what I saw. The human world was supposed to be a world of endless plains, a world where nothing but flat land stretched as far as the eye could see. But somehow, there was forests, mountains, and oceans, and within them, people of all different worlds were living. It was as if 6 worlds had merged into one. Yes, the very world you know so well now. Furthermore, when Lord Dragon God was slain, the man god said something. I will be the one and only god. Piercing this information together, Laplace had arrived at a single conclusion. He must have wanted to become a god, the one and only god of a single unified world. That's why he destroyed each of the other worlds, absorbing them into one, and why he slaughtered all the other gods. The question is, how did the man god obtain the power equal that of a god? I mean, yes, he technically did say that, so it kind of matches up there. And again, this kind of gives that impression that he's seen there was a necessity to combine the worlds. He wanted them together. There's a side of it that I think that is a jealousy. Again, that these other worlds could have been jealous about how this world had this. But who is this individual, and why would they foresee all this? That this would actually work? That's the question mark. How they foresee this would actually work? Laplace placed a hand on his chin, pondering for a moment before looking at Rosalina. I mentioned this at the start, didn't I? At the very beginning, there was a single god, the Creator God. He died, and after his death, no one knew what became of him. Was it Lord Dragon God that told me that? Or was it Lady Lunaria? Either way, about the Creator God, where do you think he went? Did I call it? Did I call it? Did I call it? It's funny because when I first started reading the beginning of the story, that stood out to me. It's like, I wonder if he's still around. I kind of wonder if he's still around. No way. I believe he perished in the barren world. The barren world? A place of absolute nothingness, through which one passes when traveling between worlds. The Creator God died at the very center, and one day that being found him, and he claimed the corpse as his own, using the power of the god's corpse. He either replaced or absorbed the weakest of all gods, the human god. Okay, so this isn't my theory, the idea that is the Creator God come back, but that somebody just found whatever remained of his body and just took the power that he left behind. There's some remaining power there, and then he went and took out the human god. Okay, this makes sense. And the rest played out exactly as I described. Huh. Of course, this is just speculation. In the end, the man god's true intention remains unknown. To Laplace, however, the man god's goals and origins no longer mattered. Even if he was the human god himself, even if there had been some justifiable reason for killing Lord Dragon God, none of it mattered. Laplace had investigated, formulated countless theories, but in the end, his purpose remained unchanged: to kill the man god, the one who trampled upon the pride of Lord Dragon God and the 5 dragon generals. Yeah, but again, it goes back to what Lord Dragon God said. You have to find out what his origin is and why he did it in order to figure out how to stop him. The idea of it possibly being the power of the Creator God, his body or whatever that's been left behind, that's a huge tipping point right there. That's some knowledge that could possibly help you. And understanding the power of the Creator God and how to get rid of it or seal it away, that's a whole different can of worms there, though. So, where's the man god now? Well, he's in the barren world, of course. How do you know that? Partly because he wasn't anywhere in the human world. But more than that, there was a sill. No, a barrier maybe? Something like that, set up around the barren world. It was probably something Lord Dragon God created by squeezing out the last of his power. Though there's also the chance the man god made it himself out of fear. Either way, if there was nothing there, there'd be no reason to set up something so elaborate. Huh. I mean, I would assume it's probably Lord Dragon God put him in there, but I think it pretty much implies that the man god is just hiding away. He's using it to hide away. And again, Orchid has to get through that in order to get to him. But I mean, it would check out to the idea that Orchid has to find all these gems and these keys in order to get to it. It's the idea of like saying, okay, once you found all these keys, you're ready. But don't go in there until you're ready. Don't open the seal until you're ready. As long as the barrier exists, does it mean there's no way to reach the man god? I've already figured out how to undo it, but it would take an enormous amount of mana and a rather massive device. And even if I lost, the man god would be unleashed. If that happens, everything I've worked for will be ruined. I just can't rush into it. Huh. He already knows at this point. Again, this would be probably information that eventually Orchid's going to find. What information he has right here, Orchid will find that. But yes, it makes sense. You want to wait until you're actually ready before you open that door, which again is what Orchid is doing, because if you open it too early, you're just going to let the man god out, and then you're going to probably screw everybody. Laplace said this with a slightly bitter expression. He likely wanted to break the seal right now and fight the man god, to avenge Lord Dragon God, to clear the regrets of the 5 dragon generals. But he wouldn't act recklessly. He was preparing, slowly and carefully, one step at a time. He would create everything needed to ensure the man god's demise. Again, he's got to give it to Orsted, because Orsted has the power. But Laplace, this must be painful for you, isn't it? Thinking about the past, yeah, it hurts. But when I think about the future, it's not so bad. Lord Orsted will descend and use everything I prepared to fight the man god. The martial arts, magic, technology, weapon, and knowledge I've created, using all of it. No, not just Lord Orsted. The surviving dragonfolk, and even Pedigus, will fight alongside him as well. Yeah. the entire dragonfolk race will throw everything they have into this battle against the man god. Just thinking about that moment makes my heart race. Laplace said this with a smile. He had been preparing. At first, it must have been agonizing. With nothing but the goal to defeat the man god, he had to build everything from scratch. But thousands of years had made it possible. He had done countless things. He passed down dragonfolk's techniques and magic to the humans, who grew quickly, while he himself studied the secret techniques used by the 5 dragon generals and Lord Dragon God. He passed on techniques and magic to humans? When did it ever imply that? It must just be stuff that's never been recorded. The only thing I remember is talking about the idea that Laplace was up in the hills, the mountains, in the demon folk area, and he would come down every now and then to talk to the demon folk. Later, when humans refined and improved the techniques and magic on their own, he took them back, further refined them, and passed them on again. Okay, cool, so it's sort of a multiplier effect. He's giving it to them, they're doing something with it, he's learning what they learned from it, and then he passes something else on to them, which is cool. He analyzed the spell likely cast on Orsted, deducing it from just a single glance at the magic circles, and prepared countermeasures to eliminate the negative effects that it might have on him. That's kind of funny. Implying that, yes, there's negative effects to what he's going to have, which would be probably like the fear aspect. And he was potentially going to create something to offset that, but then again, unfortunately never able to pass it on to him. That wasn't all. He even prepared for the worst case scenario, his own death at the man god's hands. He distributed secret treasures crafted from fragments of the deceased dragon god's god gem to descendants of the 5 dragon generals he found across the lands, and he built ruins all over the world, leaving behind the results of his research. Yeah, this is all the stuff that was mentioned before. That he potentially created the keys to get to the Barren Lands, which is given to the 5 dragon generals. Bringing them together would create the single stone they're going to need in order to traverse to the Barren Lands. And right here, all the different ruins that he left behind for people to go to, which has been mentioned before with Orsted and Oldius. Both mentioned those. He did everything he possibly could. Even though he couldn't say everything was perfect, but he'd always strive for 100%. He had anticipated and prepared for every possible scenario. Perhaps that's why he no longer felt the pain of it all. He had overcome his dark past, and now he could see a bright future. I guess that's sort of the silver lining of everything. After all this turmoil of betraying the one that he was so faithful to, by being tricked by the man god, and having all this disaster happen, all these unfortunate events happen, the silver lining in the end is that he fulfilled the final wish, or he's fulfilling the final wish of his master. He wanted me to do this. I'm doing it. And that's exactly why Rosalina felt it. A sense of alienation. Laplace's battle. The war between Dragonfolk and the man god. She had no place in it. And that realization filled her with sorrow. Okay, little selfish thing here. It's a fine thought. It's like, okay, of all that stuff, that's what you get in the end, is that you're not a part of it. And that realization filled her with sorrow. Lord Laplace. What is it? Is there anything I could do? For a brief moment, Laplace looked surprised by Rosalina's words, but then he gave her a gentle smile and patted her head. You've already been a great help. Cleaning, laundry. But it's not just that. Ever since I came to the human world, I've been alone. Your presence has healed my heart. Just you being here is enough for me. Aww. Laplace had taken her in on a whim. Of course, there had been a calculated element to it. He thought she might be useful in some other way. After all, the vast magic power sleeping in her body was a rare and valuable thing, but he hadn't had a specific use in mind from the beginning. And in the end, Laplace was still just as any other person. After living together for so long, he had grown attached to her. Now, she becoming his one and only source of comfort. I don't like that. Lord Laplace, I want to be useful to you too. I might not be able to fight alongside you, but there has to be something, anything I could do. Something that will help the young master in the future. Anything. Of course, Rosalina wouldn't simply accept his words and stay put. She had spent all this time doing nothing, just waiting for Laplace to return. Even if that brought him comfort, it didn't satisfy her. No matter the era, simply being made to wait was always painful. And Laplace understood that pain well. After all, he had been waiting all this time for the dragon child, Orsted. Unlike Rosalina, he had plenty to keep himself occupied. But if he had nothing to do, and was forced to wait endlessly, he might have gone mad. Alright, if you're that determined, I'll let you help. That was why Laplace said those words. Is there something I could do? Yes, but it might be painful for you. What is it? I'll do anything. First, I'll remove the magic circle from your body and restore the curse to its original state. Hearing that her curse would be restored, Rosalina's face turned slightly pale. You said you wanted to help. He's like, you said you wanted to help. Here's your chance. What's the use? What's the use? Question mark? The thing that had once dragged her into the depths of despair was going to return. It was an instinctive fear. Even beyond the fact that she trusts him, she's still afraid of it. After that, using the secret technique of the demons, I'll gradually reshape your body. You'll be able to store your immense power and give it to others. There it is. Okay. There it is. Ellen Lace. And there was a side of me that's like, it sounds familiar, but at the same time, it wasn't implying the storing. And again, we still have to get to the route of like, when does she end up in a crystal in a labyrinth? I'd be shocked if it's not Ellen Lace at this point. Make it to where you can basically store power and give it to somebody. But what does it have anything to do with helping him? I don't think it ever implied that she was there at the battle against the man god, or that he would ever know that Ellen Lace was going to come across Orsted at any point to help. I'll gradually reshape your body. You'll be able to store your immense magical power and give it to others by banging them. Sorry. You'll have to bang a little bit, but you'll be able to do it. Don't worry, just bang a little bit. To others? Yes, Lord Orsted has been imbued with numerous techniques for the sake of defeating the man god. As long as those techniques remain, his mana will continue to deplete. It's possible that the mana consumption is far greater than we anticipated. It might even surpass the amount of mana gained by his natural recovery rate. So he's even acknowledging the problem that he's going to be running into eventually. So is this implying that they could eventually figure out that she could give him mana crystals to restore his mana? Question mark? So my magic power will help with that. Exactly. But until the secret techniques are fully implemented and your bodies transform into its ideal state, it will require multiple adjustments. It will take time, 100, 200 years, perhaps even 1,000 or 2,000 years. During that time, you will fall into a deep sleep. You won't be able to live as you have until now. If everything's over by the time I wake up, then that's fine. Moreover, the transformation of your body will inevitably affect your mind, and the passage of time will make your memories fade. Yeah, Ellen Lace. That's Ellen Lace. I get it. It makes sense. It kind of connects everything with her. Petagus sort of implied that he knew. I had an impression that Petagus knew. I have to go back there and read that part again. I mean, again, he knows about Ellen Lace. He knows what was going on with her. But the whole conversation was so quickly steered to the idea that she knows something that could help out with Zenith. Wasn't really necessarily kind of digging into in the stone Ellen Lace. It wasn't really like Petagus was really digging into that stuff. It's more of an idea that you know more than you're giving off. Explain it to the boy, so I don't have to. But that's interesting because Petagus implied, and again, Ellen Lace was kind of digging on that too. They were all implying this was something that was in a labyrinth. Like she was a similar situation as Zenith in a labyrinth. Didn't they say labyrinth specifically, that Ellen Lace was in a labyrinth? Either way, the end result of what Laplace is going to do to her will potentially create a labyrinth. Like putting her into a crystal and storing her away and having her sleep as her body is changing, a labyrinth will probably form around her no matter what. Because something's going to happen to Laplace. He's going to probably do this for her, and then he's going to get swept up in this battle, and then he's going to get split. And he's going to completely forget about her, which is the sad part about all this. That's like the true tragedy. This entire story of ODT, the big tragic story, isn't like everything that happened with the dragon folks and the human god and everybody else. The tragedy really is that this poor little elf, Rosalina, gets locked up inside of this crystal, waiting for Laplace to return, and he never does. Because he gets split and forgets everything, and she's just sitting there waiting for somebody to find her before having this long, tragic life and eventually meeting Best Boy. Does that mean I'll lose my personality and my memories with you, Master? Yes, of course. I'll make adjustments along the way to help you retain your memories. There it is. It wasn't intended. I'll make adjustments along the way to help you retain your memories. I wonder if he lied. I wonder if this was a lie. But again, it could be the fact that he just wasn't there. I could make adjustments during it, but he wasn't able to. If you say so, Master, then I'll be fine. So, you're saying that you can endure it? Yes. At Rosalina's response, Laplace's expression darkened slightly. He knew that their way of life would come to an end. He knew that voice that resounded through the home would disappear. Yeah, he doesn't want this. He's like, I want you to stay here, but you want to help, but you're saying that it's not a help. That's the sucky thing right there, is that he's saying you're helping me plenty by being here. You brought me out of darkness. And she's like, but I want to help more. Okay, well, you can help more, but you got to do this. but then I can't hear you anymore. So you think you're going to help more by doing this, but it's actually going to rob me of something that's giving me joy. He knew that Rosalina, whose presence reminded him of the warm life that he had in the dragon world, would no longer be here. That's sad. That's why hesitation flickered within him for a moment. But if Rosalina wished to act for his sake, no, for the sake of Lord Dragon God, then Laplace had no words to stop her. After all, Laplace was one of the 5 dragon generals. Even if it was now only in name, he was still one of them. How could he reject someone willing to fight for Lord Dragon God? I see. Then come. Let me begin preparation. Laplace forced a smile as he said that. God damn, that's... This is like the most tragic story of this entire thing. It's like not about, Laplace and Lord Dragon God and the fall of the Dragon Folk and the betrayal of Lord Dragon God and all these other gods and all these worlds collapsing and so many millions of lives being lost. That's not the tragic part of the story. We knew all that stuff happened. It's like newsflash here. Lelass was really liking Laplace. Laplace loved her presence. Then she goes off to sleep in this crystal. He goes off and gets split, forgets about her, is unable to adjust it so that she'd remember him. And then later, she's going to wake up from this, completely forget him. He completely forgets her. It's like this romance right here that completely is shattered. Lelass will never know about this person, Laplace, that she loves so much. And Laplace will never remember Lelass. Potentially. Far away from Dragon War Mountain, in a subterranean cavern, that was a place Laplace used as one of his research facilities. It was constructed from stones engraved with countless massive magic circles. The entire cavern itself was a giant magical device. At its deepest chamber, she lay there, submerged in faintly glowing water, eyes closed in slumber. And so, the saint defeated the Demon King and returned to the one he loved. Laplace sat before her, speaking softly. It was an old tale, a story of a hero from the human world that Laplace had once seen. Yeah, that would be Otis. That would be Otis. I wonder if I got that wrong. Did I say Orsted back then? I don't think I said Laplace back then. Yeah, that wouldn't have been Orsted. That would have been Laplace. He would have been the last sage. There was Soulard, Dola, Chaos, Maxwell, and then one last one that was never named. That would have been Laplace. Yeah. Interesting. Well, that's it for today's story. As he finished, Laplace slowly stood up. I'm heading off to battle again. I have no way of knowing what the man god is thinking. But he has to be stopped. Not once has anything he done ever led to a good outcome. Saying that, Laplace extended his hand over Rosalina. A transparent lid slowly descended over the resting place. Once the lid was completely sealed, and the interior filled with soft glowing water, Laplace gently ran his hand over it. I'll continue the story when I return. Don't worry, there's no story as tragic as the one from the Dragon World. It's right now. Again, because of all of ODT, this is the most tragic part of the story. Again, because we just don't know about this. It is like the point that it's like a revelation happens that we didn't know about from the mainline series. With that, Laplace turned on his heel. Just be patient and wait for me. The sound of his footsteps echoed as he walked away from that platform. As he distanced himself, the lights in the room gradually dimmed. Eventually, his footsteps disappeared completely, and darkness swallowed the chamber. Rosalina had no consciousness, but Laplace's words had surely reached the depths of her slumbering mind. She was waiting for the day when the adjustments of the secret technique would be completed, and she could finally be of use to Laplace, forever waiting in darkness. Always waiting. Forever waiting. Until one day she's found and goes to an elf village before finding out that she has to bang a lot in order to create gems, before then later on traveling the world and becoming an adventurer and eventually meeting Cliff Grimoire. Which makes me wonder if, again, sometime in the future she's going to be of use. Again, did they say something about that? I know that Rudius at some point was looking into mana potions and whatnot, like a technology to give mana back to people. And it kind of makes me wonder if there was ever Lelass sort of brought into that whole thing. I don't remember them ever implying Lelass ever being of use in this whole situation. But again, this could be something that's in the future, a later time. I don't recall them when they talked about what Rudius seen in the future with the fall of the man god, that Lelass was there. Did they ever say an elf? I mean, that's difficult too, because you can't say, well, there was an elf there, so this must have been Lelass, because again, it could just be simply a descendant of Sylvie. So, yeah, that's That's rough. It's so great that the end of this entire story, that's the gut punch, is Lelass. Of ODT, of the entire story. Again, it's just really just a telling of a story that we already knew. The gut punch is Lelass and her tie in with Laplace in the end. And the fact that they had a bond and that was shattered by both of them losing their memories. Both of them had the same thing happen, just from different perspectives. He got split, lost his memories, forgot about her potentially. Lelass over here just incubated too long in the system without being adjusted and having her mind kept. He couldn't adjust the thing, and it broke her eventually. And again, I'm assuming that a labyrinth was formed around this ruins. But that is Old Dragon's Tale, folks. That is it. That is the story, the origin story of Mushoku Tensei and where everything started from. In the end, it's really good. It's really good. Again, there's a side of it that kind of sucks because we've been sprinkled throughout the entire mainline series, this story. So there's a lot of this where it's kind of like I'm trying to probably overthink things. But at least a lot of my sort of speculation early on that I felt foolish about ended up coming true. And again, a lot of that has to do with around the man god himself. I still wasn't convinced. It was actually the man god. That there was going to be some sort of like rug pull. Now, yes, part of that went in the direction of the potential being that the man god himself was corrupted because he was portrayed. That it wasn't the man god that struck first. But no, it turns out that it's the case. He's the one that struck first, but it wasn't the human god. I like it, at least that there is a confirmation that the man god is not the human god. In the end, when he says later on, I'm not the human god, he wasn't. He replaced the human god. And that this may potentially be somebody from somewhere else that came into here, found the body of the creator god. Again, to Laplace's theory. This is still a theory, a hypothesis, but I would assume it's probably pretty spot on. Like it's potential that is the direction that, or at least a direction that Refugium wants to go with who the man god is in the end. Is something got in there to the barren world. And again, that could be somebody that got displaced. Somebody was, displaced from their world and was going through the barren lands to get to the other worlds, and they got stuck in there. And they just walked around for a little bit, found the creator god's body, was able to extract the power from him, consume the corpse or whatever, became this being that eventually replaced the human god, and then started orchestrating all this stuff. That's the crazy thing there. Again, it all comes down to the dragon god having seen that. He knew something changed. He just couldn't put his finger on it. He looks the same. He seems like he's keeping things going. But the man god probably observed how the human god was acting and was able to at least keep the status quo, keep the peace going until he could orchestrate things and then deal that decisive blow. The curious question mark it doesn't really say it, and thus we don't have an answer to it at this point, is really what he's seen, what the man god's seen that he knew that he needs to go that direction and destroy the other worlds to absorb them, so to speak. At the end, it kind of implies that he absorbed these other worlds into the human world and became the one and only. What led him to that, or at least made him know that he could do that? I guess that's the big question mark there. And again, it could come from the fact that by consuming the creator god, by gaining his power, he got knowledge that he wasn't supposed to have. He got knowledge from the body of the creator god that told him, I could do this. I can create a balance by just consuming the other worlds into this one world. There may be still some sort of imbalance there, and it could be through his existence, but he figured something out there. Now, at some point, they did imply that the man god is able to see something of the future, which does kind of make me believe that potentially whoever consumed the human god was a demon. I might be off base on that, but with the fact that the human god's able to see his own death makes me believe that he has, and this could be just the human god's power in general. The human god himself had this power. But just with the idea of the demon eyes always being something interesting in that regard, again, the eye of foresight, I kind of had the belief that what the human god was using was an amplified eye of foresight. It kind of makes me believe that whoever consumed the creator god's body and again replaced the man god was a demon that had a demon eye. I don't know. Kind Kind of creates a lot more theories. It's funny in the end, after reading this entire ODT, I have more questions than answers. I mean, it's a lot of answers. It answered thousands upon thousands of questions that I had about this story. Again, filled a lot of the blanks in. It really did kind of extend a lot of these stories. Really did kind of flesh this entire story out to something that's understandable. And again, gives Laplace a lot of character. Again, because we only had the idea of this individual that comes down from the mountains, mingles amongst the people, gathers techniques, eventually gets attacked by Bodigadi, split in half, and that's all we know. That's literally all we know about Laplace, that story. Everything beyond then is these other two beings. It's the technique god and the demon god. It's not Laplace. Giving him character, which sucks in the end because of what this kind of ends with, is something that was necessary, I think, in the end. But it makes me kind of wonder where we're going to go from here. I do have one other remaining question that does pop to my mind after this whole story is, where is the other Godstones? The Human Gods one could have potentially been destroyed by Lord Dragon God. Lord Dragon God's one is destroyed by the Human God. One was given to Lord Orsted in order to be able to send him forward. That leaves potentially 3 other ones, which makes you wonder if they potentially come up at some point in the future stories. Which makes you wonder if they're brought up at some point, just not called Godstones in the story. Because again, my assumption was originally that all the Dragon Generals had one each, and that was what was used to get to the Barren Lands. But they're saying no, this is fragments of Lord Dragon Gods, and they're going to combine them to get there eventually. Which again is what Orsted eventually is going to do. I don't know, I'm not going to guarantee this, but there's like a side of me that almost wonders if I'm going to have to just talk about this stuff to next week. I will likely do Subjugation next week, and maybe potentially I'll just cover some of that stuff then. Anything else that I can think of in the meantime. But damn, this has got my brain spinning for sure. This end part right here. And it's funny that it all kind of hits me at the very end. But I'll say it. ODT was a very, very good volume. It's not my favorite. By far, not my favorite. It's easy in S tier. I mean, we're not joking. I'm not even going to even bother doing this. What am I going to rank ODT? It's S tier. And again, it's a lot because of the lore. Like, there was so much juicy bits in this. I will admit, like, character story stuff, until the very end, I didn't really care so much about the characters. I didn't really get a connection to Dulla or anything. Dulla I kind of liked. I did like Dulla. But like there's a lot of characters like, Lelass and stuff like that we didn't really get enough time to really care too much about. It was mostly Lord Dragon God, Laplace, and Dulla that I think we got some really good character development around. And again, technically Lelass at the end here, but it's Lelass, but it's not to our Lelass. It's just a lost Lelass that once was. It's not my favorite volume when it comes to character. It's just lore. It's world building stuff that, again, filled in a lot of those hazy gaps that we didn't have for the mainline series. And it honestly makes me want to reread the entire series to kind of see connections there. But anyways, that is ODT. S tier, again, I'll put a poll in the chat, but I'd be crazy to see if anybody was going to put this anything lower than a B. I could see some people seeing this being a B, but it's hard to see anything lower than A, honestly, from the chat. But that is Old Dragon Tale. That's another one down. That's another one done and in the books. But again, I'll probably move on from there to next week doing Subjugation. And at that point, I think we have potentially some side stuff, but I'll probably move on to Roxy Get Series. I still got to figure out what I'm going to do with Roxy Get Series. I'm super looking forward to reading it. Just I keep not really deciding what I want to do with it. So we'll see. But anyways, chat. Hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Monday. As always, was a really good week. But hope you guys enjoyed it as always. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week after Mushoku Monday ends. You guys are absolutely fantastic. I greatly appreciate your support, all your kind words, all that stuff. It means a great deal to me. Thank you so much. And most importantly, those that support the channel monetarily through Patreon, tips, links, super thanks, memberships, all that stuff. Thank you. But until the next Mushoku Monday, y'all take care. But he wouldn't act recklessly. Recklessly.